everybody. Welcome to Liberty and EDC. I'm your host, Daniel Norman, and we are here with Sue Taylor, who's running for the EID board supervisor for Division 1. And so how about you tell us about yourself? You know, who's, just as a person, like who's Sue Taylor?
So I've lived, my parents retired in Camino, so I was still a teenager, so I got to come early and then went away for a little bit, went to college, met my husband, left college, and moved back to Camino. We raised our kids there. We were part of the Apple Hill Association. My dad really wanted to be into farming, so we kind of joined in together for a little bit. And then, things happen with farming and all kinds of stuff. And then, fast forward from the 70s to now, my husband and I'm very involved in historical restoration and different things. So we ended up saving the Herrick and Hangman building on Main Street. They had a demo permit, and we jumped in and went to the owners to try to save it. And they said, "Would you buy it then?" So I went to my husband and said, "Can I buy these buildings?" And we've been restoring them ever since about 2013.
Wow, so that's the ice cream parlor that's there, and then the building next to that, that's, we see a lot of construction going on there. What's that going to turn into?
So that's going to be an event center. There's not a lot of places for people to do like little wedding receptions, birthday parties, just events. And right now we're actually putting in a warming kitchen in the back so they can bring in caterers and stuff like that.
Cool.
So that's going to be called Placerville's main event, and so that's kind of fun. That's fun stuff. I'm actually by profession a building designer.
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of work, custom homes, a lot of that, a little bit of light commercial. I do most of my stuff out in the Half Moon Bay area.
Oh yeah.
El Granada. And so when this building, the things came up with it, I understand construction, so that's kind of why we got involved in the first place. And then I come up with the ideas, and then my husband has to do it all. So it's and he's really pretty good and talented. And we have some really neat people that are local, that live in town, that have been working on it over the years.
Oh, great.
Really good craftsmen. We're really blessed.
That's awesome. Now, so for the water board, what do you see the job of a water board director being?
So you're basically on the board. You oversee budgets. You kind of put out a plan for your capital improvements, maintenance, those kind of things. Staff usually brings you big projects, and you get to go through volumes of documents. I feel like if you're doing your job, you spend a lot of time researching the projects and make sure that they're value to the ratepayers. So and then you get to decide whether that project's worth going ahead and spending their money on.
Now, what made you want to run for this position?
We were in farming, and I've always been really sensitive about the farm rates. My parents put in their own water.
As far as like water and stuff goes?
Water, right. Because without affordable water, the farms can't continue, and that's our open space. So my parents put in their own water lines, and
What does that involve?
Digging trenches.
Oh, okay.
And then my husband and I, when we got our property is actually across the street, we put in an 8-inch water line, which was pretty big, through about 40 acres to get to our property. And so we, more digging. But what we were promised when we did those was we were put on what's called domestic irrigation rates. And the farmers, there's probably about 1,400 of those that were on those rates. We were promised those, and we thought into perpetuity because that's what they promised. And so when it was about 20...
They were promised to be on like a special farm rate.
Special farm rate, right. So I think it was around 2012, they said that wasn't legal, and they moved everybody, they gave them like a year to get off and go on to...
Now who's they?
So EID.
Oh, okay.
Told the farmers that they had to go to either a small farm rate that they created or go off the rate. And so then they created certain requirements that you would have to be able to keep those rates. So they went from about 1,300 small farms on those rates to about 400.
Wow. So why the change?
Well, a lot of people had just automatically had those rates. It was just part of what they'd always had. And my feeling is that they should have, like my mom was in her late 80s, they should have grandfathered those people in when they either passed away or moved or sold, and then change it. But to change that promise, that always kind of bothered me. So between that...
Now, were they not like doing farming anymore or something like that? Or?
Well, I think the other ones, you had to make so much money, or you had to, had so much of certain products on your ranch, and then they would come out and check it. I think it was just felt like kind of a hassle to go through the process. You really had to... I did it with my mom for a while, where you have to go down to the ag department and get signed off and verified that that's how it is. So that was...
That you're actually a farm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that you're actually farming. So that was one of the things. And then the other one, the Bureau of Reclamation built Sly Park. And when they did it, that's why we're an irrigation district, because 5/6 of that was supposed to go to irrigation. So when EID bought the reservoir, those agreements went away. So, and then the other thing that's happened to farm, so the miners built all these ditches for mining. And then they were taken over by the farmers and then constructed.
Ditches like flumes and stuff like that?
Flumes and ditches. So
Okay.
ditches are the ones in the earth, and the flumes are kind of usually up on some structure up in the air.
Gotcha.
So, so then there was I can't remember when they did it, but EID wanted to pipe the water for domestic use, and they felt it would be too expensive to run two different systems. So they asked the farmers, we'll let you keep your rates, but we'll go ahead and pipe it because it's actually cheaper in the long run if we pipe all of it in one system.
Yeah.
But then when it's delivered to you, we'll still just charge the farm rates as if it was ditch water.
Okay.
So, well, fast forward now, and you have people that say that's not fair.
How long was that?
See, I'm not really sure on the dates. It was, I'm sure before, I don't know. It was pretty early.
Okay.
Early
Can you give us like a ballpark?
I would be guessing
50 years ago, or
I would be really guessing. I would like to say 60s, 70s. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
But I do remember water running through ditches further than right now. You have that ditch in Pollock Pines that's still there. It's about 3 miles. And I remember more ditches throughout Camino where that water did flow. But those have all been buried into pipes. But anyway, so doing that kind of put the farmers at the mercy of the board of whether they're going to retain those rates or not, because there's no real guarantee that those will stay there. So that was basically the 3 hits to agriculture. And my concern, and I've worked a lot with our county general plan, with the kind of trying to keep us rural, keep them, on task on actually following the plan that has policies like that. And one of the policies in our general plan, they actually did a section to protect our cultural resources, and there's 5 policies that should have been implemented to protect water for affordable water for agriculture.
Yeah.
And that's never been implemented.
Wow.
So when they
do
say,
you know why?
because they just don't
haven't.
do it.
Okay.
You'll find the county's more interested in the development of the county than they are protecting a lot of these resources.
Now, who decides that? If
The
those are
majority of the
implemented?
board. So you have 3 people on the board that basically get control.
The EID water board you're talking about?
Yeah, well, either board of supervisors or the EID board. So technically, the board of supervisors determine how much growth we're supposed to have in the county, and then EID is supposed to facilitate the water for that growth. So they're kind of bound together on how they make decisions. And my frustration is because the county hasn't implemented certain policies, then the agriculture is really not protected. Like I said, they're at the mercy of whoever the board is at the time. And so far they've been fortunate that they have been pro-agriculture. Kind of. Maybe bigger farms, because the small, like I said, the small farms are, I would say we're struggling more to, you need something to, if you're going to be farming, your water rates have to be dependable, your resources have to be dependable, and if those are changing or the requirements are changing all the time, then it's harder. The actual larger farms are on different rates from the small farms,
really?
so that's a whole nother
Do they get a
animal.
better rate being because they're using more water, or how
it's
does
just
that work?
different. It's they usually have a larger upfront base rate, and then it's kind of a commodity after that type of rate.
Okay.
So
So obviously you're running because you're passionate about this.
right.
So what changes do you want to see?
Well, and the other thing, every time I go to an EID meeting, well, it's almost like any meetings. They give you 3 minutes to speak, and then they say, okay, we did the process of what was necessary, and then they go ahead and, so let's say you have a project, and you go and you've done all this research about their project, and you show up for the board and you say, I found all these things in this project, and they give you 3 minutes to explain. And then it's almost like they're more concerned about the clock than they are what you're sharing with them.
Right, just
So
pushing people through the process.
Get through. We did the process. You all got to speak. So now we're going to vote. And then the vote is usually, when they put something on the agenda, it's usually because they're going to go ahead and vote yes on it. So
Gotcha.
it's kind of
So it's
frustrating.
kind of they've already made up their minds. They're doing what they
Right.
want.
Which is interesting because the only time a board can speak together, the Brown Act only allows 2 board members to discuss issues at one. You can't even do a serial thing. Like you can't 2 people speaking and then you go speak to somebody else. That would be a serial 3-person meeting, which is a violation of the Brown Act.
Wow.
So the only time that board members can speak openly about these projects is during a board meeting. And you never really see them do that. So you wonder, where did these ideas come from? How come? So I would like to see more of a dialogue on, first, why are we doing this project? So the public's more informed, we're all more informed. And if a project starts out at $3 million when they're saying, should we go start researching this project, and they come back for approval for $17 million, I would at least ask, well, what happened? Why is that so? And this board doesn't do that. So and we're paying for that. So they actually, the EID increased our rates. It's 218. I don't know if you've ever heard of Proposition 218.
No, go ahead and tell me.
I'll explain this, because it's, when you get involved with this stuff, you're always trying, well, why is that happening? And why is this so? So they have, whenever the water district or any district wants to raise your rates, they have to do what's called a 218, and it's kind of a backwards vote. So all the ratepayers are basically voting yes, and if you object to it, you have to send in a letter with your parcel number and other information that says, I oppose that. So to get the rate from not being approved, you have to have, I can't remember if it's 2/3 or 51% of the people that are in that district have to write in and say, we object to that rate increase, which in this county is almost impossible to get that kind of collaboration, because you'd have to go to every door of everybody that's in the district to explain that to them.
Oh, okay.
And so people know it's pretty much impossible. So then they'll approve it, and then they'll say, look, nobody sent in letters. So they all approve it. They all think it's great.
Gotcha.
And you'll hear them say that there was only a few people that objected. So
okay, yeah, I think I remember seeing those notifications go out, and
did you ever read it? Did you ever think about it, or just?
I didn't. I didn't even think that I had an opportunity to say like, oh no, I object to this.
Right.
But
so that's really frustrating that most people don't understand that. It just looks like an ad or something for anyway. oh, that's informational, that's interesting, okay,
Yeah.
check it. When it's actually, you have to go through the effort to vote no on a rate increase. I don't
Is there
know
any
that.
specific things that you think, other than the process that the board has been doing things that haven't gone well, things that we'd want to see changed if you were on the board?
Well, I think mainly what I'm running on is stop runaway rate hikes, because in the last 10 years alone, we've gone from about 20. This is for a typical residential 3/4 inch meter. The base rate's gone from around $22 to $62.
Wow.
And that's just
Over what
over
period?
10 years.
Okay.
Since
And how does that compare to other counties
um,
or areas?
I'm just concerned about us.
Yeah.
If we can't water, we're building all this infrastructure with the monies that we're paying. We're doing all these things, but then we can't afford to use our own water. So then they also need to make enough money to, keep EID going. So it's a commodity thing, and you got to make sure if you've outpriced it to people that live here, then you start selling it to somewhere else. The bottom line, you still have to sell the same amount of water. And I'm more of I would rather see more water used here at a less expensive rate, because when you stop watering everything, what happens?
You get fires.
You get fires. And, we're seeing that at Georgetown. They just did the same thing there a couple of years ago. And where you had water in ponds and water in fields and all these places were getting watered, they hit the ditch people really hard with their rates, and so they're not filling their ponds. And they use those reservoirs or water ponds for fire suppression. So what happens when those people can't afford that water anymore? So it's the same thing here. We're drying up, and I have concerns about that.
So we have some questions from Facebook that we solicited. Someone's asking, how can we lower water rates for farmers without hurting rates for regular non-farm customers?
So first off, we are a El Dorado Irrigation District. It was really built for ag, and that's kind of an educational thing that people need to understand. The other thing is debt. Debt is horrible. If you have so much debt, everybody's got to pay it off, and that kind of includes everybody. Rates have gone up for agriculture, and like I said, everybody for debt. When George first took office, our debt was around $109,000, and now we're up at $109 million. Now we're up to about $361 million of debt. So you got to deal with the debt.
For the board? The EID?
So EID, it's, the whole district. So the district is in debt about $361 million. So we all pay for that. To get better rates, we have to start. They just borrowed, I think it was $60-something million to do some projects that are, when I mentioned the 3.4 to 17, that was the 3-mile ditch that has been controversial, that they want to pipe the ditch in Pollock Pines. It's been there since the gold rush. It's a beautiful, it's more of a creek. And they proposed to ditch that for around $3.4 million, and they approved it at $17.7. So they've just sold a bond to help pay for that. They just gave our general manager a raise, a 20% raise. His contract's not up till next year. They gave him a 3-year contract with a 20% raise next year. He's in, I think with benefits and everything, he's at about $340,000 a year. So I think there's things that could help everybody, just the spending. And I need to, not being a part of the organization and deep, being deep into all of their policies and documents, I need to see where a lot of those monies are going. They built a building that was 40% over capacity that they'll ever use. I know George talks about how they reduced the employees. Well, when he was there, they ended up with, there was a heyday around 2004 or something. They built this giant building. They got about 305 employees. I think now we're down to 220 or something, but all those things, I would have to see everything that they've got going now and pensions and all that stuff and see how we can bring some of that down.
But you think we can do better than what they're doing now?
Absolutely. Yep. I'm very conservative fiscally. So I think they need to respect the ratepayers' funds and that, the irrigation district is ran by the ratepayers, and I think they need to honor that a little better.
Now, what makes you want to do this job? Like, why are you passionate about it? I mean, obviously, you see a problem here, but like, why you? Like, why are you the one who's going to change this?
I've been so involved for so long. From the time we had our farm in the late 70s, and just watching our government and how they've done things. It's the same group of, I say good old boys, but they've been there a long time doing a certain agenda, and a lot of it has to do with development and growth. And I love where I live, and I love the history, the culture, the rural atmosphere, and that's why most people come here. So I don't want to see that lost. So I guess that's more my passion, is retaining our rural quality of life here. And I'm a grandma, and I worry about my grandkids.
That's great. Now, so if someone's interested in your campaign, or they want to learn, more about you, or your different positions on things, where can they go? So
I have a web page. It's votetaylor.info. INFO, and that has my email address on it, and if people want to call me, that's 530-391-2190. My number's all over the web, so I have no problem discussing things with people.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to add before we close?
I just thank you for the opportunity to share and share about myself, and I hope that we kind of are able to make a change in the culture of politics in El Dorado County.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And again, this has been Sue Taylor, and she's running for the EID Board of Directors for Division 1. And this has been Liberty and EDC. You can watch us on Comcast Channel 7 here in El Dorado County. And also you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/Foothill7TV. And we'll see you guys next time.
Hi, my name is Jeff Gutierrez, one of the owners of True Value Hardware on Missouri Flat Road. My parents are the original owners and bought the store 36 years ago. I grew up in the business and had my first day at 12 years old. The first customer I went up and asked for help, he said, "Yeah, go get someone older." I still get that response today, but now it's a compliment. Stihl and John Deere are rated the best in their respective industries. And here at True Value, we have the benefit of carrying and being the local dealers for both of those products. I've always looked at being a salesman as you got to love what you sell. If you love what you sell, it's not gonna feel like it's a job. You're just getting the right equipment for the customer. The great thing about our store is you can do everything through the store here. We have a repair shop, we have rentals. If you don't know how to use it, we go over everything when you rent the product. I myself am a new homeowner, so I am getting an idea of everything that I need for home renovations. Everybody's got a different job, and we want to be a part of that job and help them through that job. It's very important for us to have a happy staff. Our staff is an extension of us. We support a lot of families through this business, and that's what I love. I love it when a customer comes in and says, "Hey Jeff, I need this," or "Hey Brian, I need this." It kind of warms my heart to know that our store has such a footprint in the community. We try to support our community in many different ways, and one of those ways is through donations. We definitely help out all of the local schools. We support support Relay for Life, local youth sports, Eagle Scouts, Toys for Tots, many different organizations. It's important for us to be a part of the community and to really make an impact in people's lives.